Hey, my name's Jess. Today, we're doing episode 3 of the branding series. For today's episode, we're talking dark and moody vibes, which, side note, are probably my personal favorite. All of these photos look great, but it's easy to get a dark look with a black surface. So today, I'm going to be focusing on showing you how to get a dark and moody look without only relying on black surfaces. So, for our first setup, I'll be using Bookscape and Concrete. Bookscape has some dark tones in it, whereas the rough texture in Concrete will help kind of add that moody vibe into our scene. Next, we'll add our product. Now, I'm shooting this for a client who specifically asked me to have a dark academic style for it, which is another reason Bookscape is just so perfect for this scene. Next, let's add some props. First thing I'm going to add are these 2 fake book props. I'll just place them back here. I'm laying the top one slightly crooked to add a little bit more of a moody feeling. It also adds this almost lifelike feeling as if the book was recently used. Now, I'm actually going to add an antique clock for my next prop. I absolutely love this thing. I don't often get to use it as a prop, but it's so perfect anytime I'm trying to do moody or vintage photos. And last, I'll be adding my favorite black eucalyptus. I got this stuff on Amazon and it definitely has been one of my favorite props I got this year. It has this classy and mysterious feeling to it since eucalyptus is normally green. In fact, you're going to see this prop used in all 3 of our setups today, but more on that later. Here's how the final shot turned out. Alright, next up, let's try a challenge. Let's use a white surface, but make it moody. I'll be using Wonderland as my background surface. It's gonna be pretty blurry in the final photo, so I'm not using it for the snow. Instead, I'm using it to add some texture to complement the rest of my scene. You'll see what I mean in a minute. You might notice I also have black marble as my bottom surface. This actually isn't going to be seen much in my final photo because I'm gonna cover it up. Let's get to styling. So, first thing I'm doing is adding a riser. In fact, I'm gonna add a second riser just to make it extra tall. Now I'll add my product. And now it's time to add one of my favorite little gadgets. I think this thing is called a helping hand. You might see it over on the Gear and Gadget series where I show you all the awesome shots you can take with it. Anyway, this thing has bendy arms that I can use to help make my eucalyptus surround my candle better, specifically to make it look like it's floating. I'm going to start by putting 2 in front of my candle. Now let's add 1 to the back. I basically want these things surrounding my candle and covering most of the surfaces. Because my main background is white, I'm using so many of these to add that dark feeling back into my scene. Want to see how the final photo turned out? I am totally obsessed with this. Also, notice the name of the candle? We leaned into that by using the forest surface and surrounding everything with basically black branches. This is definitely one of my favorite photos I've done this year. Alright, now for one last scene. We're actually going to be doing something pretty similar to this setup, though there's one big difference. We have a red surface instead of a white one. In fact, I really wanted to show you all this one to show how easy it is to add a color into a dark scene. Just like our last styling, I'll be using black eucalyptus to cover up most of the surface, but this beautiful red will still be present in the final photo. Here's a side-by-side comparison of this shot with and without the eucalyptus. It makes a huge difference in letting the scene be dark and moody. So, let's go over what we learned. We don't need to only use black surfaces to create dark and moody looks. We can use rough textures and dark props to do that. All colors can be used in dark and moody photos, even white. Alright, thanks so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye!